Alright guys, so this was the thought process of about 90% of the population 2 months before this movie came out. They were all thinking the same thing. Well, it can't be better than the last couple of films we've had. Anyway, hey there guys, what's up? It's all about Mike 18 here, back with another movie review. Guys, we have entered August, and this is essentially, the movie I'm reviewing in this video, is essentially the last big summer blockbuster that we are going to have for basically the rest of the summer. I mean, we got Straight Outta Compton coming out next week, but this is like the last big, like, summer action blockbuster, you know what I mean? So, obviously, it would be awesome if we had a great action movie, comic book movie, to cap off the summer. And, of course, guys, the movie I'm going to be reviewing in this video is Fantastic Four. That's right. They have decided to give us a new take or a reboot of Fantastic Four, which I believe is the third attempt at recreating the Fantastic Four and giving them their own movie. I think we had a 90s movie, which I never saw, and obviously the most well-known Fantastic Four movie is the 2000s version, 2005, I think it came out, I don't remember. That was the first one, then they made a sequel to that, and now this is the third actual reboot in which they're giving us an entirely new cast. But hopefully supposed to be sticking toward the same sort of premise. It's just, you know, a new vision on the Fantastic Four. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was obviously, like most of you, very skeptical for this movie, especially when they announced the cast. I was like, oh, I guess they're going for a young cast. I don't really know how this movie's going to turn out. And then when we get the trailers weren't selling me at all. The most recent trailer we got a couple weeks ago did not sell me at all on this movie. And I was very, very skeptical going in. And of course, with the reviews that started coming in, I got even more skeptical. And I'll get into my thoughts, actual thoughts on the movie in a bit. What I'm going to do right now, though, however, is discuss the basic premise of the movie. Now again, guys, I'm sure unless you've been living under a rock, you know what the Fantastic Four is. You've heard of these characters before, especially if you watched the 2005 version of the movie, which I'm assuming most people have seen, if you're a comic book movie nerd like me. But Fantastic Four is the newest take, and in this is the newest take on these characters from Marvel, however, owned by Fox and distributed by Fox. Keep that in mind. And the movie starts off, and our sole focus on this movie is on Reed Richards, who is portrayed by Miles Teller this time around. He is trying to invent some sort of machine that can provide interdimensional travel, you know, like sort of like teleportation among different dimensions. And he's been working on this machine. He's had this passion ever since he was a young child. Now he's like a senior in high school, and him along with his close friend Ben Grimm, played by Jamie Bell, as well as Susan Storm, played by Kate Mara, and Johnny Storm, played by Michael B. Jordan. These young people are basically trying to perfect this machine to create, you know, to travel amongst dimensions. And when they do perfect it, and they get in the machine, and they go into this different universe, they come back with completely different powers. Each one has different powers, as we all know. Mr. Fantastic can stretch, Sue Storm can turn invisible, Johnny Storm can turn on fire, and Ben Grimm becomes this rockish mass of thing. And that is our team, the Fantastic Four, and they now have to team up and take down Doctor Doom, the biggest villain of the entire universe, basically. And that, guys, is all I'm going to say about Fantastic Four. It's the story we've heard of before. Like, if you've ever heard of the Fantastic Four, you know what this movie is going to be about. You know what's going to happen in this movie. It's basically the first movie that came out in 2005, told just a different way, okay? But the same origin story and the same fact that they have to team up and take down Doctor Doom. It's pretty much more or less the same thing. Now, just to give you my quick thoughts on that Fantastic Four series, since I've never reviewed it or anything, that movie came out when I was like 10 years old, okay? The first Fantastic Four movie. I remember going to see it for a birthday party, okay? Like, that was my birthday party. Going to the movies to see Fantastic Four with a couple of my friends. I loved the hell out of that movie when it came out. Yes, now I'm older and I know that that movie is not what it should have been. It was a letdown. Yeah, that was just really just a kind of campy, cheesy Fantastic Four movie that was very cliched written, but it was still enjoyable. I hated the sequel. I do not like Rise of the Silver Surfer, and I never saw the 90s version. So when they announced they were doing this Fantastic Four over, I said, alright, maybe it's time for them to finally get Fantastic Four right. And guys, after having watched this movie, I don't think they have gotten Fantastic Four right, to be completely honest with you. Holy crap, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. With the last few years of superhero movies we've had, I can't recall the last time I watched a superhero movie and said, wow, they really kind of messed things up here. And they did with Fantastic Four. Guys, I'm going to be honest. Again, as I said, going into the movie, I was extremely skeptical walking in. I really was just not dreading the movie, but I was just like, I don't think this is going to be all that great. The trailers didn't sell me. The cast doesn't look like it's going to sell me. And I was pretty much right, and everybody else who was skeptical of the movie is pretty much right, because Fantastic Four is an entirely muddled, just rushed mess of a movie. I'm not even joking. There's no character development or the sense of this team as a team, okay? It's really just four people together in a movie, and they come together in the end of the movie just to face off a terribly written villain and the worst iteration we've ever seen of Doctor Doom, okay? Complain all about Julian McMahon from whatever his name is, from the first Fantastic Four, okay? This Doctor Doom doesn't even hold a candle to that Doctor Doom, okay? Just gonna be honest with you. I mean, my word, guys, I really want to know where things went wrong. I really think things went wrong when they were writing the script. It's not even the execution of the film that is terrible. I think it's really, I think the cinematography is good, and I think that these are all good actors. Like, I've seen them in really, really good movies before this, okay? It's really just the editing, the pacing, and the writing that makes this one of the most forgettable and one of the biggest waste of a superhero movie we have had in years. And that is why Fantastic Four doesn't really work for me. Now, here's the deal. The first act of this movie, although I couldn't get behind the casting decisions, and the fact that they have decided to, as a new take, alright, fine, they're going to do something different. They're going to cast young actors to portray younger versions of these characters, like when they're teenagers. But high school teenagers? No, because I'll get into that later, but I couldn't get behind that from the very start of this movie. I was just like, alright, Miles Teller is a senior in high school. Are you kidding me? And Jamie Bell, really? They're seniors in high school? Come on, guys. They don't even look like they're 17 years old. They're legitimately in their late 20s. Are you kidding me? So that was problem number one that I had with the first act. But other than that, I got behind it. I was like, they're establishing these characters well. They're establishing Reed Richards very well. I got behind it. I thought that all the actors were doing a good job with the material they were given. And then, right after they get back and they have their powers, the movie fast forwards a year later. Right when that pops up on the screen, my mouth dropped. I don't think I have ever seen in a super movie, and this isn't a spoiler really, alright, they fast forward time, okay, into a year later, okay? I don't think a super movie has ever done that before, okay? Because as soon as I saw that on the screen, my mouth dropped because I said, are you kidding me? Is this real? Like, are they really doing this? They just got all their powers, and you're going to really fast forward that much into the movie? I mean, Fantastic Four is basically, the entire movie is just one big setup for the sequel. And that's what this movie felt like by the time it ended. I'm like, alright, this is all just one large origin story. The origin story isn't the first 40 minutes where they get their powers. That's not the entire movie is an origin story that feels so rushed and so lacking in character development, and each character character relationships feel utterly forced and just messy, and you can't bear to feel anything for these characters because they're not fully developed, and they're just wasted. And that is one of the biggest problems I had with this movie. And then by the time we get the overly cliched, completely unbelievable third act with one of the worst villains we have probably ever had in a comic book movie, with a terrible battle sequence that is so rushed and there's just no action. It's very dull and just it'll make you feel drained. Like, I left this theater and I just felt drained. Like, I didn't feel excited. I just felt like, the entire second and third acts, which, like, there's part of a second act, and then we have an end of a third act. It feels like a whole chunk of this movie is just, like, missing. Like, there's a lot of stuff that just feels like it's just missing. And, guys, I know I'm going all over the place, but, man, this is a big letdown. Now, what I want to really briefly discuss quickly is the cast. Now, again, I had problems with the casting going into the movie. A lot of people were going nuts. They were going utterly bananas that Michael B. Jordan was cast as Johnny Storm, who is the brother of Kate Mara. Okay, they're obviously, she's white, he's black. Everybody was going nuts, and that wasn't a problem with me at all. I was like, you know what? It's Michael B. Jordan. He's got a great charm to him. I think he can really pull off a good Human Torch, a good Johnny Storm. And although Michael B. Jordan tries his best in this movie, the character itself is not funny, and any lines that he gives or delivers aren't funny, and that all ties back into the script. I was also very concerned when I heard Jamie Bell was cast in the movie, and I think Jamie Bell's a great actor. I don't think he is a good thing, and in my opinion, that still stands. He is just, I don't know, he's just bland. The entire cast is bland, and these are all actors who have done better in other movies. Miles Teller, excellent in last year's Whiplash. Excellent. I was like, alright, I want to get behind him. Behind this character. The first half I did. I bought the nerdy sort of aspect of him. I'm like, I buy this. I buy into it. He's brainy, he's nerdy, it feels right. And then when they have his character do something completely out of nowhere, right around the part where they fast forward 1 year later, okay, that's all I'm going to say, that I lost it, okay? I said, oh my god, they're just completely going out of character. And it's such a shame that all of these great actors are given this script and this material to work with, that they are so much above. Toby Kebbell even is like, I didn't even like him even in the first act of the movie before he becomes Doctor Doom. I didn't even care for him. He was just that overly cliched, like, I'm the bad villain here, and he didn't bring anything to the character. They really threw in this whole fact that he had feelings for Susan Storm, like he loved her, and that is so completely forced and thrown into this movie out of nowhere just because that needs to be there, and it's never explained again. It's only brought up in the first act, never brought up again, never hinted at again, unlike the first Fantastic Four movie, which actually did it right. I'm going to be honest with you guys, that movie is better than this. It is. The casting was better. I liked the action scenes better in that movie. That movie is far more superior to this movie in a lot of ways, and that's such a shame because this movie is 10 years older than that, okay? So the special effects should be better, the budget is bigger, things should have been better, okay? But even the visual effects weren't that good in this movie. The Thing does not look good at all, okay? It just is a blah of just rock. And I know that they used like a costume for the last Thing. That looked so much better than this Thing, in my opinion. I'm serious. And even Johnny Storm just looks like, oh my god, when he flames on and becomes the Human Torch, it's the most bland and unappealing thing I've ever seen. Okay, guys, so just utterly disappointing visual effects, a terrible script with forced character development, forced relationships, a terrible third act that you can't even call a third act. It feels like so much of this movie is missing. It's clunky. It's rushed. Everything feels forced. Oh my goodness, they just misfired on so many different levels. I hate the ending of this movie. Everything about the third act just completely falls apart, in my opinion. The only things that I can give this movie is that the cinematography was very good, okay? Chronicle director Josh Trank directed this movie, and he even tweeted on Twitter that he had something different in mind, but he's claiming that Fox ruined this movie. Maybe he did have something in mind. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Fox needs to hand this over to Marvel. This is an utter disgrace of a superhero movie. It's the most disappointing superhero movie since the Amazing Spider-Man series, and this is probably worse due to how this should, because this should have been so much better. Okay, we've already had good Spider-Man movies. Those two new ones were just bad. We have had okay Fantastic Four movies. We needed a good Fantastic Four movie, and we did not get that with this movie. I'm only going to give it to the cinematography and these actors themselves. They've been better in other movies. Other than that, I give Fantastic Four a 6.5 out of 10 or a D+. I know, guys, I know, but the movie was not that good. I frankly do not want a sequel. I really want this new reboot to just die, okay? Guys, I do not recommend you see this movie. It is not better than the 2005 version at all. This was a big misfire on nearly every end. Editing, writing, casting, everything failed for this movie. Visual effects, and nobody is going to remember this movie at all. Okay, so guys, those are my thoughts on Fantastic Four. What a big misfire, guys. I mean, I thought it was going to be bad, but I did not think it was going to be as upsetting as it was. It's one of the most bland movies of the summer. It's one of the worst movies I've seen all year so far, and that's a shame because it's a superhero movie. It's the Fantastic Four, and they ruined it that bad. So guys, that's how I feel about Fantastic Four. What did you guys think about this movie? Let me know down below. Was it a misfire? Was it... What did you think it was going to be this bad? I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes score is bad, like it's like at 10%. I don't think the movie's that bad, like it should be somewhere in the 20s, but it's pretty bad, guys. So there's that. So guys, thanks again for watching. Leave me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Wow. Bye, guys.